Everybody got an NWO T-shirt before long.
Yeah.
Hall comes, Nash comes, Six comes. Is there talk that Shawn might come? And if so, how did you think that would have because that would have really completed the picture.
Well, you know, here's this dynamite NWO. Nobody can touch it. And so really to bring in a Shawn Michaels, such a great piece of talent, and just fit him in with all that strength and all that power, and then again, nobody to work with, that I certainly would have done it different. The
addition of Michaels or the whole NWO?
Yeah, Michaels just coming in and being fitted into the NWO, just as Shawn Michaels coming in, and there he goes now. He's part of this group. No, that wouldn't have worked at all for me.
What would have been a better way to introduce him then?
Well, can I? You know, it's a booking thing. Can I run you a little angle?
Let's do an angle.
All right,
let's start our booking exercise.
Yeah, let's just give you an idea. That in WCW, I was to marry Sherry, and that was something that we spent a lot of time on. And had I have been running things or worked in the office at that particular time, I would have done it. I wouldn't have married Sherry, but I mean,
for television.
For television, yeah. I would have married Sherry, and I would have my soap opera would have become so much more interesting because the Colonel married to this crazy woman. I'm a refined gentleman, all the money in the world. I got this crazy wife that could beat me up 3 times a day. I mean, it's good stuff to work with. And she's got her talent, and boy, she lives for them, and I better respect that. And then I've got my talent, and I live for my guys, and she can do whatever she wants to. She didn't have to respect. But I would have looked at Shawn Michaels with a possibility of being with Sherry, and Sherry coming in, introducing him into the NWO. But I would have given Sherry Shawn Michaels as a wedding present.
Bought her a boy toy.
I'd have bought her a boy toy, I sure would. And the finest one on the market, the Heartbreak Kid. You're not kidding. I'd have had him come in, and I'd have had her just delighted. She's got the Heartbreak Kid, and she wants to introduce him into this NWO because it's the only thing going. It's the strength, it's the power, and you got to get in it. But in going in, Hogan looks at Sherry and he goes, wow, that bitch scares the heck out of me. He said, I don't really want to do business with her. But you got to do business with her. And Shawn coming in, accepting the fact that she's the boss in a sense, and loving her. And so Shawn, in loving her, and then her up against this faction of the NWO and trying to, there would have, just right off the bat, there would have been that animosity, that feeling of treachery going on. And then here's Colonel back there. I could have dropped back and said, okay, the Harlem Heat, I'm going to switch down and take the Harlem Heat. And you go up there with your boy toy and enter that NWO, and then there's so many things that we could have done to, soap opera wise. To
let me take you a step back, though.
Interesting.
Let me take you to Hall and Nash first coming up. Let's take the NWO from its inception. Was that handled well? The inmates about to run the asylum threat. How did they do with that, or would you have introduced Hall and Nash differently? Even before Shawn gets there.
It's hard for me to pick that too much because they had so much success with it. I mean, good gosh, it just, the numbers went crazy. I don't know how I would have, off the top of my head, you're just asking me off the top of my head.
Yeah.
How
feeling.
How I would have made success even better, that the numbers went above Vince's numbers at that time when these boys came in. And then they even brought the other kid, the 1, 2, 3 kid, into 6 or whatever, and that, this for the young kids and all, that was a great thing for them too, I thought probably they did a pretty good job of that, but I think they should have, like I said earlier, WCW should have been ready to protect themselves with opponents to work with these guys, because pretty fast, too big, too strong, too smart, pretty fast they're going to run out of an angle to work or anybody to work with.
Would you have put a limitation on how many members would join the NWO? Eventually it got to, I think, 600 or 700, but what would you have capped it? Would it just been Hall, Nash, Six, and Michaels?
Oh yes, that was part of their downfall. When they started just adding all these guys in there, just, you know, and I was sitting back, and at that time, I was scared to death of losing my own job. And keep my mouth shut and just lay low and work in there and make things work. But no, I saw that and I said, what in the world are they doing? That, you know, it weakens them to bring in this guy they just brought in. I don't see any sense in that whatsoever. Well, it'd been good sense, because those guys that they brought in, they would have been Shawn Michaels meat.
Right.
You know, that, you know, you got your main characters in the NWO as your top three, and that's Nash and Scott and Hogan. When you bring in all these other guys, you weaken the whole system, watered down the whole idea, and naturally I figured it would hurt them.
Would you have turned Hogan like they did and put him in, or would you have had him work outside the NWO?
I think they had to, because, you know, he couldn't use the Hulk Hogan. He couldn't wear the colors, the stuff he, you know, because Vince owned. So they needed some out for him. Hollywood Hogan, right. The different look, the different name, was something that they could put their stamp on in WCW.
Also was maybe losing a little bit of his luster as a baby face at that time too.
Right.
With the fans. Anyway.
Right. You know, when I heard when I heard that Hogan was going to turn heel, and the way they were going to do it, and the look they were going to give him, and the whole deal, I thought, big money there. I thought this thing it's the right thing to do. Okay. And I think Hogan had his finger on it right then, of how he was going to do it, what he needed to do to have serious heat. That he wasn't sitting back saying, "Well, I want to be a watered down heel, half babyface, half heel." He wanted to go all the way with it. And I remember, boy, they filled up the ring with garbage. I mean, you know, people were mad. They were mad, and that's what you wanted, and that's what you want. You don't ever want a heel that's half heel. You don't want a guy that thinks he's, well, you know, I don't want to be that bad or whatever, because, you know, if I'm using a heel, I want the type of guy that's going to say, I want to be the baddest man on the block, the most devious, horrible, awful character that ever worked for you. Mm-hmm. And I want him to feel that way. I want to try to make him that way. So,
when you look at the WCW roster from the summer, and we're talking about, like you had said before, in hindsight, they should have worked to strengthen the existing WCW workers to be able to fight the NWO and not be obliterated so quickly. Who are the guys on the list that you would have, A, kept out of the NWO and would have been maybe on the forefront of that fight against the NWO on behalf of the WCW? Who were your heavy hitters here that you would have pushed on the WCW side?
Well, okay, let me do a little booking here for you again before we start writing anything down. Okay. Let me just give you an idea here. There's things we did. The last thing I did is Colonel Parker in my regular suit. We went to Huntington Beach, California for a pay-per-view, and they had Sting against my guy Ming, and it was the first time that Ming had wrestled. It's so important that he does well, but in this case, they were bringing down the Colonel, they were splitting up me and Ming, they were going to send Ming with the Kevin Sullivan thing with the guy sitting up on the hill with a Dungeon of Doom thing, and they were shooting down a lot of WCW stuff. That what I would have done, instead of having Sting do his splash in the corner and beat my guy Ming right in the middle, I would have had those boys go through. I would have had them go Broadway in the match. And I would have, at the end of the match, the last 15 minutes, I would have put Sting through the worst horror that he's been in. I would have had Ming on him. I would have had him bleeding. I'd have had him hurt. Every time that he did anything inspirational to fight his way back, I would have interfered myself. that Ming and I would have destroyed him, and we would have, the last 15 minutes, made the people sitting in the crowd see Sting vulnerable. And that's something that, you know, he was the franchise of WCW. It's very seldom you see him terribly vulnerable, but I would have made him, I'd have tried to heartbreak him that your man Sting is going to die in this match because Ming is a killer. And I would have, he didn't lose. He stood his ground, and they Broadway, no finish. And at the end of that match, I would have had Ming fall in love with him, show compassion to him. And I would have been upset by it, by Colonel Parker, and try to call him down. Hey, because down the line, I need Sting. You see, I would have put, you're asking me who would have fought.
Yeah.
WCW would have been, and where I had Sherry come in with Shawn Michaels and have her problems working with Hogan and these guys, and people seeing these problems, she gives me instead then the Harlem Heat. And the Harlem Heat, then we work against, say, Nash and Hall in a tag match. And in the match, they hurt Stevie Ray and break his arm, something bad, and put him out. And Booker be inflamed about it. And so then I've got Booker, Sting, Ming. You see, I start putting together this other program over here that when Sherry runs into the brick wall, and Michaels runs into the brick wall, that all three of these guys are on him. And then first of all, I want the two guys there, and I want them holding dadgum Michaels, and I want them to do something bad to my wife Sherry, and I want Hogan to have his way with Michaels and the whole deal, and build that heat, that steam. And then I want Michaels to be in the WCW, back into WCW. So I want Michaels and Sting and Ming and Booker T. You see, I'm putting together this organization that I'm going to say with me and Sherry in this organization, we're going to be stronger than this dadgum NWO, and we would have made a challenge.
So you would have turned Michaels out of the NWO onto the WCW side?
Yes, sir, I would have. And I'd had it in the end, you know, where you build that steam and you have Hogan and he has his day. And finally, boy, they snuff off Sherry and they all three get on Michaels, and boy, and Hogan has his way. I tell you, Michaels, you're not the star that you think you are. You're not the man you think you are. You're just a punk to us, and abuse and abuse and abuse. And then in the end, then we filter in Michaels as a backup. We're a backup to him. And on that day, the people are waiting for that Michaels confronts the whole 3 or 4 of them with the idea that I can kick all your butts at one time, just me. But here's these guys, this backup, see, they're not there. He's by himself, but people know in their heart, here's Sting, and here's Ming, and here's Booker T, and here's this guy standing pretty much behind me. And I'd have him get in his face and say, hey, we put you in your place before, now we're going to do it again. And I'd have him bust all their butts right there. And the people at home just friggin' that. And here's the strongest, the smartest, the biggest, everything. But here's Shawn Michaels that says, no, you ain't, no, you ain't, no, you ain't, and prove it, and just bam, bam, bust. I mean, nothing but NWO flying, 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 flying for a minute, and Shawn Michaels on top of the world. And then Sherry stepping back in, the proud girl, and all of us going together, and people believing that, hey, these NWO guys, they're not strong, they're not the best. They're not going to just capture everybody, and instead of going down, we'd have had a chance to go up. We get some soap opera story going there where there's some competition toward these guys. And Michaels would have been the catalyst to it that I'd have made up. But after he takes his beating, then I would have given him a comeback like nobody ever saw, to just bust these guys' butts in 19 different directions. They just fly. Pow, 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 all these big guys all over everything. And Michael's just infuriated. I've had it, I've had it.